Hi friends, welcome to my channel, Yaya's Heart Tarot. Today we're bringing messages from departed loved ones. We're doing a little bit different spread. This is called Conversation with a Loved One, but it's similar to what I typically will do. We'll be doing two readings today. The first reading is group number 1, and it is a Chrysocolla heart. Cool little vug up here. Chrysocolla heart. And group number 2 is a Carnelian heart. Carnelian heart for group number 2. So we'll be doing those two readings. So select whichever group you feel drawn to. If you need to pause the video, that is fine. However, before we get started with the readings, as has become somewhat usual for my readings, I'm going to relay some visions that I saw in my preparatory meditation, which I believe are clues as to who might be coming through for some of you. So some of these may have some significance for some of you, and some may not find any significance in them, but that's fine as well. But I did want to go through these and just let you know what I saw. The first vision that I saw was at the top of a stairway, and I had the distinct impression, in fact I think I heard, that it was a split level home. It was a carpeted stairway with very plush carpeting, although it was old, worn-ish carpeting. It was gray or possibly a pale blue color. And at the top of the stairs was a young boy sitting. As you were looking up the stairs, he would have been to the right, sitting leaning against the wall. He appeared to be probably 6 or 7 years old. 5 or 6 years old. And I had the impression that he was possibly listening to a conversation that was down below. He was sitting in the hallway above the stairs with his feet kind of on the first stair. And it wasn't open to downstairs where he was, but I got the impression that as you went on down the stairs, it opened up more, so he probably at least had, if not a view of what was going on down below, at least he could hear what was going on down below. It was kind of a gloomy feeling that I got, and so I don't know if that was a mood of what was going on in the home, or if it was just seemed that way because it was dark, it was nighttime, and there wasn't a whole lot of light. There may have been just a faint night light in the hallway, but this young boy was sitting at the top of the stairs, probably listening to what was going on down below. It was a split level home, had gray to bluish, light blue plush carpeting on the stairs. So that was the first vision that I saw. The next vision that I saw was very, very brief. It was a magenta colored stuffed dog. And so this may have been an actual stuffed toy that someone has some connection to, or it may have referenced the children's show Blue's Clues, because one of the little puppy Blue's friends is her friend Magenta, who is a magenta colored toy dog. So that was just a brief flash, so if that means anything to any of you, that may reference who might be coming through. The next vision that I saw, initially I thought it was from the story or the movie of Mice and Men, but upon thinking about it and seeing it more clearly, I believe it was a vision, a flash of a scene from the movie The Green Mile. And it was a flash of the scene in that movie, or a scene in that movie, if you've not seen it, where it is revealed that there was a farmhand who took 2 little girls who lived at the farm, took them away, kidnapped them. Ultimately, they were murdered. So I had just a flash of, I didn't see all of that, but I saw the the setup to that scene. I saw the locale of it. I saw in that scene there's a screen door, back door to a screened porch, and there is, a yard and possibly a swing set and some things piled in the yard. But I saw that very distinctly, that I felt that it was that scene from that movie. I didn't see anything happen in this vision. It was just a flash of that particular scene and that particular location. So, that could be anything to do with that movie, The Green Mile, or it could be to do with the South, because the movie occurs in the South. It could be to do with children who were kidnapped or murdered. I don't know for sure what that vision was showing me. So, but I just did want to relay that. Then I had a very strong smell of popcorn, which was interesting because I had a very, very sweet incense burning, and I could smell that incense very strongly, but I had a very strong undertone of this popcorn smell, and it was heavily buttered theater popcorn. So, it just was a very strong sense of being at the movies and getting popcorn. And I felt kind of a... almost like a grandfather-grandchild connection, and some excitement and happiness to be with this individual. So I don't know if some of you, periodically a grandfather or, and I had a distinct grandfather feeling, not grandmother, took you to the movies, and that was an exciting outing for you. So that may be an inclination or a clue of who might be coming through. Then I saw a very, very tired, haggard-looking woman in a yellow dress that was just a very plain shirt dress, or perhaps like a diner uniform. It was just very sort of pale and dull-colored, and this woman's hair was kind of disheveled. She had brown hair, and she was standing in what I believe was an old kitchen, like a 50s or 60s vintage kitchen that had metal cabinets. Everything in this vision was sort of very plain and simple and somewhat worn. And it seemed to be probably nighttime. I felt like it was nighttime, and this woman was just basically standing in the kitchen and looking very, very tired. So I don't know if possibly some of you might have had a loved one who passed, who worked at night in a restaurant or a diner or something along those lines, and they came home at very late hours. Perhaps it was a single mother who had to work nights and take care of kids during the day, but she just looked extremely drawn out and extremely haggard, and just was kind of standing there, almost asleep on her feet. So there was that vision. And then I got a flash of a what looked to be a 60s vintage sci-fi robot, like a toy, or perhaps some sci-fi show, television show, that had just what would seem now to be very silly looking robot. It was very kitsch, very, early sci-fi, just had that feel to it. So, again, if someone had a toy robot that was given to them by a loved one who's passed on when they were a child, or perhaps, you had a grandparent who, when you went to their house, they had an old box of toys that had this vintage robot in it. Or maybe you watched Lost in Space with a grandparent or a parent or something along those lines, or a sibling perhaps. Again, nothing real specific about actually any of these visions. They're just sort of flashes for the most part. The next one that I saw was a man who looked to be probably in his 30s. I would describe him as sort of jovial. He wasn't really big and heavy, but he wasn't thin by any means either, just had sort of round features. He had very curly brown hair, and he was wearing like a tweed golf type cap, with or a driving cap, but I got sort of a golf feel of the whole thing. He was very smiley and he was laughing. I don't feel as though he was outwardly telling a joke, but he was laughing at someone else's joke or laughing along with some other people. And his name may have been Jack. His name may have been Jack, or it may have been Jeff, but I definitely got a J and I think a Jack. I think it was Jack, or something related to that. So that may have some significance for some of you. And then I saw just a flash of like cartoon ants. And this may be sort of spilling over into my usual life because my granddaughter has been watching a lot of song videos on TV during the day because her little sister, who is just a baby, is entertained by them. And one of the ones that comes on that stops both of them in their tracks because they love to watch it is the ants come marching one by one. So it may be something to do with that. But I also got an impression of the old game Cootie. Or Cooties. I don't remember if it was Cootie or Cooties, but it was, a game where you put together this bug, big plastic bug with legs and antenna. And I had the distinct impression that it had something to do with the name of the manufacturer of this game, who for the life of me, even though it was on the tip of my tongue, I couldn't remember it. So I looked it up, and it's Milton Bradley. So that name, either of those names, Milton or Bradley, may have something to do with a loved one who's coming through as well, as much as the game itself might have something to do with, a game that you played as a child with perhaps some relative, an uncle or a great uncle or a grandparent. But the names Milton and or Bradley may have something to do with whoever's coming through and have nothing to do with the game. It might just be the name. And then the final vision that I had was of a man who was very thin, had very severe features. He had kind of a long, almost hooked nose. He had a long white beard, and he was wearing like a cloak with a hood. It was around Christmas time, but he didn't strike me as a traditional Santa Claus by any means, although I know there are some traditions where Santa is a little scarier and not so jolly. But this was a very thin, very severe featured individual wearing what I believe was potentially maybe even a velvet cloak of some sort. And I also had some idea that there was trains that had something to do with this, a toy train set, or an actual train. So, I can't even really venture a guess as to what that one might relate to, but if it rings a bell with you, that's great. It may ring a bell with some. So that was the visions that I had with regard to this reading in my meditation to prepare. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get to our readings. If you've not already done so, go ahead and pick one of the groups. Again, the first group is the Chrysocolla heart, and the second group is the Carnelian heart. And I will see you at the reading. Hi, Group 1. This is your reading, the Chrysocolla heart. The first card or cards that we are going to get are to represent the person who has passed on. So, Spirit, could you please give us messages regarding the person who has passed on? We need cards to represent the person who's passed on. Okay, we got the Hermit, and we got the Five of Cups. So, this person was kind of withdrawn and perhaps a little moody most of the time. They may have been depressed. They may have been just sort of withdrawn, sad. They were not the life of the party. They were probably a little bit difficult to get to know. They had something in their life that happened to them that caused them to kind of withdraw. And that was kind of where they dwelt much of the time, just sort of in this place of perhaps even hopelessness. I get the feeling that they have this strong sense of regret. They just don't feel like it's worth it to step out Yeah, so that's the picture that I'm getting of the person who's passed on. So the next thing we'd like to know, and we're going to address these questions to the deceased, is looking back on your life. How do you see it? How does this deceased loved one see their life when they look back on it? How do you see your life when you look back? Loved one, thank you for coming through for us. How do you see your life when you look back on it? Okay. Okay, so we got the 5 of Swords, we got the 6 of Wands, and the 9 of Cups. So looking back at this person's life, they felt as though they had come to a point in their life, they got to a point in their life where they were ready to celebrate. They thought that they really had accomplished something great. I'm almost getting a feeling as though this was someone who'd been in the war and came back expecting to receive accolades and praise and be welcomed back, and then they weren't. Yeah, I'm really feeling like they thought they were at a place, they thought that they had done something really, they felt like they did something that was a great service, or that they were very giving and they had sacrificed for others, and that they had done what they felt was best, and they did that in sacrifice to other people. And it may be that this could also be a loved one who kind of sacrificed their time at home so that they could make lots of money for their family, or they may have they may have just worked really, really hard so that they could provide a good life for their family. Or, like I said, this may have been someone who went away in the service and fought in the war, being very altruistic and fighting for his country, fighting for the cause. But then when all was said and done, it was like a slap in the face to them that they were not welcomed, and they weren't, not everyone was just so thankful that they had done what they did. They were genuinely surprised by this, and they were genuinely hurt by it. That may be what this significant event that caused them to withdraw was. They came back, or they got to a point in their life where they were expecting thanks and praise, and what they got was blame and hate, potentially even, but certainly they did not receive the accolades that they thought that they should have. So thank you for that message, departed. Can you please tell us a lesson that you would like to share? What is a lesson that you would like to share with your loved one here? Okay, that's a few more cards than we want to get. Let's see if we can keep this. A lesson that you would like to share with them. Okay. So we got the 10 of Wands, we got the Queen of Swords, we got the 4 of Wands, and we got the Knight of Pentacles. This particular Four of Wands card, especially coupled with the Ten of Wands, typically the Four of Wands deals with a celebration or an announcement of something that's worth celebrating, but this Ten of Wands is the carrying of a heavy burden. So I think that the message here is that this thing that they had anticipated was going to be their homecoming or their great announcement or their gift actually ended up being a burden, and being something that they had carried all their life. And it was something that they had hoped would help them move through their life, but it actually ended up being just something very heavy for their entire life. Just even when they were able to move forward with this, it was as though even before they realized, even before it became known to them that they were not going to be appreciated the way that they thought they would be, even before then, doing this thing, whatever it was really heavy. It was such hard work, and they sacrificed so much. They gave up so much. And so the message, the lesson that they'd like to share with you is that they left out or denied themselves so much emotion and connection in the pursuit of trying to gain what they thought would give them recognition or would provide for their loved ones or was the right thing to do, just basically. And it just didn't pan out that way. It didn't. This burden that they carried and this heaviness overshadowed this what should have been a celebration, and they didn't see that. It wasn't clear to them. They were so busy trying to attain whatever it was that they were after that they completely overlooked the connection side or the nurturing side of what they should have been focused on, that would have been the actual thing that would have gained them the connection, the recognition, the accolades, the genuine thing worth celebrating. They overlooked that. They overlooked that connection, that love, that nurturing piece, so that they could achieve whatever it was that they thought was going to be the right thing, and it wasn't. And they missed out on this connection because they were so focused on carrying this burden and doing this hard work. So not only did they not get what they wanted in the end, but they lost so much just by working so hard all this time. They didn't have the connection then. It was kind of that quintessential, once I get to this point, everything will be great. But it never was great. And in the process of trying to get to that point, they bypassed everything that really was great. So that's the lesson that they want to pass on. And thank you for that message, Spirit. Can you tell us what is something that you wish you'd paid more attention to while you were here? What is something you wish that you had paid more attention to? Okay, so we got, okay. Yeah, we got a lot of swords, and a lot of swords that are difficult. We got the Six of Swords, we got the Four of Swords, we got the Ace of Swords. So they wish that they had been clearer on the fact that they were running away from what would have healed them. They were running past what would have been this connection. They wish that they'd paid more attention to this family connection, to their, and if not their family, just their comfort, their just being happy with what they had, being content with their life, recognizing all of the beautiful things that they had in their life, and really being grateful for that. They wish that they'd had that clarity. They were so busy trying to move on to the next best thing. They never allowed themselves to heal. They were just pouring out this energy, trying to get to where they thought they needed to be. And their life became just completely unbalanced because of it. And they genuinely overlooked what they already had. So that's what they wish that they would have paid more attention to. They wish that they had paid more attention to what they already had, what was good in their lives, which was a lot. I mean, this card is very abundant. So they're saying that they had so much abundance in their lives that they just didn't pay attention to, because they were so busy trying to get to the place that they thought they needed to be. They never healed themselves, and they never had clarity about this situation. They overlooked it. They didn't pay attention. I mean, this is just so much dark energy of having to always be on the move and having to, obtain the next best thing. And then this is such beautiful, calming, lovely energy, and they didn't pay attention to that side of it. They completely neglected the side of it that they had this abundance, and it was what really would have rewarded them in their life, and they completely neglected it. So that's something that they wish that they had paid more attention to, was the abundance that they already had in their life, and be thankful for that, be grateful for it. So thank you for that message, Spirit. What is a message that you would like to give to your loved one? What is your message that you would like to give to them? I feel like I need to just look at this card. The Six of Pentacles, the Six of Pentacles. The Six of Pentacles, this is saying that it's not for you to decide what's best for everyone else. It's not for you to pass judgment on what somebody else needs. That's what they did with their whole life. They felt that they were doing what others needed them to do. And not even so much that they were doing what others needed them to do, just that they were doing what others needed. It was this, I'm going to fix things for you. I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to save you. It was basically taking any sort of responsibility or any sort of onus off of everyone else and trying to do that all themselves. And not only did that waste their life because they got it wrong, but even if they hadn't have gotten it wrong, it still would have been the wrong thing to do, or it still would have been a fool's errand, basically, because we can't take away someone else's burden. We can't take away someone else's journey, and we don't want to do that. We all need to have our own journeys and our own burdens and our own trials and our own challenges. And so when we try and take that away from someone else, not only are we potentially getting it wrong, and so we might end up, and we will likely end up suffering ourselves, because what we anticipate is going to happen very likely won't happen. If you're anticipating, all these people are going to be so grateful that I did this for them, and then when they're not, we're angry, or we're upset, or we're sad, or we're distressed, or, whatever emotion you want to pick. But in addition to that, if we work so hard to take away any challenge or any difficulty that others have in their life, they don't ever learn to overcome challenges or overcome their difficulties. And that may put them in a situation sometime where they have to be able to overcome a challenge in their life, and they don't have that help anymore. But even more important to them, it takes away their sense of pride when they do overcome something really difficult. We can become very despondent when we have nothing to be proud of, when we have nothing to be grateful for and to just be proud of. We need something to hang on to say, I can do this. I just showed myself I can do this. That is a huge part of being a human being. It's so very, very important to be able to win. It's so very important to be able to show that you're capable, to gain that sense of self-worth. And so by taking that away from someone else, by trying to do something for them, even though you may have the most well-meaning intentions of the world, I mean, there are so many of us who don't want our loved ones to have to suffer. So we want to do those things for them. We want to take those away from them. But we're not just taking the suffering away from them, we're also taking the victory away from them when they overcome that suffering. So, the message that your loved one wants to give you is don't try to do that. Don't try to be the one who judges who needs what and to decide what everyone else needs. If someone comes to you and they need help, then certainly help them. But don't jump in and try and take away every challenge that they might have, because we all need those challenges in our life. We need that in order to build ourselves, to know that we are capable of doing those things. So this has been an enlightening reading, and I hope that it's been helpful to you. I did pull an oracle card ahead of time, so let's see what the oracle card has to say. The oracle card is the 13 card, Arise. So let's take a look at the book and see what it says about this particular card. And I am going to just read parts of this because it's very long. I'll read this poem. Wings of hope languish from lack of use. When wings dissipate and weaken, life begins to lose its value. Every cell in your body is created to rise to challenges. There we are talking about challenges again. Your life is meant to confront everything that holds you captive. So again, being able to confront your own challenges. Don't sit at the bottom of the well not caring about salvation. Listen to the voice within calling to you. Reach for eminence beyond your own maturity. So, this is very much the message here, that we all need to strive for through our own challenges. Let me see if there's anything else here that I need to let you know. Yeah, no, I think that really pretty well sums it up. So, again, your loved one went through their life. They did what they thought was best by trying to take away or do something for everyone else so that they wouldn't have to do it themselves. It ended up not being appreciated in the long run, so they kind of withdrew from life. So they wanted you to know, don't be the one to decide what others need for themselves. Let them decide that themselves. Be there to help them, but don't try to take that away from them. Let them struggle. and be there to support them if they fail, or to help them if they need it. And that will gain you a much greater connection and appreciation than it will if you just try and take everything away from them. Remember this message, that be grateful for what you have. Don't just spend your life trying to get more or trying to do better. Appreciate where you are now. And of course, that doesn't ever mean, don't stop trying to do what you need to do and better yourself. But don't bypass what you already have in exchange for trying to do something better. So that is the reading that we have for you today. And I greatly appreciate you allowing me to be a part of this reading for you. And I hope that you will come back again. And blessings to you. Bye. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading, the Carnelian Heart. The first card or messages that we are going to get today are to represent who has passed over that's coming through for you. Who it is that's coming through for you. Okay. Okay, so we got the Three of Wands, the Jack of Swords, the Seven of Wands, and the Lover's card. So let's see. This person is someone who was very decisive in their lifetime. They were someone who moved quickly when they made a decision. They didn't drag their feet at all. They were very clear. Also, when they made a decision, they were someone who, if you asked them a question, or if you needed to know, if you were vacillating between two choices and you asked them, they would tell you. They would immediately start to act upon it if that was part of the situation. And if you asked them why, they could give you reasons. So this was a person, again, who was very decisive, who was very quick to act. They were someone who a lot of people would turn to because of this trait. If they if there was, let's say, a family gathering and nobody knew, it wasn't anything that was structured. There was maybe a family reunion, and there were 3 or 4 different activities that were available for people to go to on this particular family reunion, and everybody was just kind of milling around and didn't really know who was going to do what. And so somebody said, okay, well, we have to make a decision. This would be the person who would say, okay, the people who are going to do this meet here at 10 o'clock, and those of us who are going to do this, we'll need to get a vehicle to take everybody there. So how many people are going? They were the ones who just said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And everyone was always very appreciative of that. Although there were times when people kind of felt like their toes were stepped on, because this individual was always the one to jump in and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And they weren't bossy about it, and they weren't demanding about it, and they weren't rigid about it, but they just, they just threw the answer out there and assumed that people would like it or not. But sometimes that created a sense of, I don't want to go against this person because everyone else likes them so much. But after a while of being around this individual, so if this was an individual that was somebody that you spent a lot of time with, and we've got the Lover's card, so I'm guessing that it was, it got to a point where you might have been a little bit resentful at times, because maybe you had a difference of opinion that you wanted to express, but you felt as though if you did, the people who looked up to this individual would shun you or be surprised at the very least that you were disagreeing with this individual who everybody just loved because they were so decisive and always a lot of fun, and they always had things going on. So that is who this individual was. So in that respect, they kind of had a duality about them, because they, in a larger group of people, they were extremely helpful, and everyone loved to follow their lead, because that was, you're always wanting that person to step up and fix things, and this was the individual who did that. But being the individual who lived with this individual potentially, or was very close to this individual and spent a lot of time with them, there were times when you could actually resent this, because not only did you necessarily sometimes have a difference of opinion, or would have done things a different way than this individual, but you always felt like you could never voice your opinion, because if it was different than theirs, then the rest would look upon you badly. And but you knew that their opinion of this individual was based on only seeing them in group settings or short times, where it was helpful for them to come to a decision quickly and take decisive action. So it's not that you really resented them so much, but it's just sometimes you felt like you were sort of stifled. And so every once in a while you kind of wished that maybe, people would see kind of this other side of them. And it wasn't their fault either. I mean, they didn't do anything purposefully for people to rely on them and to appreciate them so much. That was just who they were. That was just them being their natural selves. But it just kind of puts you in a weird position sometimes. So that's who this person was. Thank you, loved one, for coming through. And now the rest of the questions are going to be directed to this loved one who's coming through for us. So, loved one, looking back on your life, how do you see it? How do you see your life when you look back on it? Okay, so this is interesting. Very interesting. Because we got the Hanged Man, or the Hanged One, and we got the Nine of Air. So this individual looks back on their life like they made a lot of sacrifices. We also got the Ace of Water. So they feel like emotionally sometimes they made a lot of sacrifices. They feel like they may feel like that they couldn't do anything other than be the one to make all the decisions. They may have felt like that was a burden at times. But they had this almost hidden feeling that they were always making sacrifices for everyone, and that they couldn't get out from under it. There was no way that they could stop doing what they did. There were times that they didn't want to be the one to make the decisions, but everyone always looked to them to make the decisions. And so sometimes that kind of hurt their heart, that they had to be the one to do that when they didn't always want to do that. And that may have come from the fact that they might have known that you felt this way, and that sometimes they wanted to let you be the one to step up and make the decision. And they would have gladly done that. And they knew that sometimes you wanted to do that, but the others involved wouldn't allow that to happen. So they look back on their life, and they have some of the regrets that they have are that they wanted to allow you to step up the way you wanted to at times, but that others pressured them to be who they were, which didn't allow them to allow you this is getting a little convoluted, didn't allow them to allow you to make the decisions that they would have been fine with you making the decision. But it wasn't because they didn't want to let you do that. It was just that the others always pushed them to be the decision maker, to be the one to step up, because people appreciated that so much from them. So it was the weirdest situation because nobody meant any harm by it, but it really put the two of you kind of in a situation that was more difficult than most everybody knew. But your loved one knew. They looked back on this life and they knew that. And I think you knew that they knew. I get the feeling that you knew that they understood that. But you also knew that they were sort of trapped in this situation, which is why, the two of you got along with it and it was fine, but you just always felt kind of sad that it always had to be that way. And so did they. Wow. Okay. So, loved one, thank you so much for that message. What is a lesson that you would like to share with your loved one? What's a lesson that you would like to share with them? Okay, so we got the Seven of Earth and we got the Empress. So looking back on what they had, they would have made more of an attempt to pull you into the decision making. And they would have done so in a way that was extremely nurturing. They now look back and they see that they probably could have done that maybe they were a little too quick to cave into what the others wanted of them, rather than say, well, let's ask so-and-so, because he or she has got really great insight into this too. So the lesson that they want to share is that there was a way not to overlook the other person in the situation, not to overlook their contributions, and to really make an effort to kind of slow things down, basically, and to acknowledge that you had as good a skill, and it may not have been the same skill as they had at being decisive and making decisions, but that the way you went about that, or had the capability of going about that, was equally as important and equally as useful as the way they did it. And so they look back and they want to understand, and they want to show that you can look at another. I'm sorry, I'm getting all tongue-tied, and I want to get some clarification actually on this, because I feel like I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. So Spirit, loved one, can you please give us some clarification on this? What is the rest of this lesson? excuse me, the rest of this lesson that you'd like to share with us. Okay, the Fool and the Hermit. Okay, so, and this is a big lesson because we've got 3 major arcana here. So, rather than just go with the flow of what everyone expected of them, they would now have taken some time and brought you in, slowed the process down. I keep hearing that. They would slow the process down. They, you know, when everyone was clamoring for a decision or clamoring for their input, they would slow the process down. And so that's the lesson that they want to put forward. They want to emphasize that by slowing things down and really giving it a chance to listen to their intuition and listen to their heart before they jump into, just leap into making a decision and taking stock of what all of the factors and what they already have, you know, taking stock of the resources, meaning you, that they also had to draw from. They would have done that. They would have slowed things down. They would have they would listen more to their insight. They would really, really listen to their heart, and before they jumped and made the decision, because that's what everyone looked to them for, was to make that quick decision, to just jump and go with it and not overthink it. And that was great, but the lesson that they have learned is that may not have always been the best way to go about things, and then that actually ended up closing some doors that that might have led to some different decisions that might have been better. It might have led to some decisions that maybe weren't the best decisions, but they feel like they closed a lot of doors by not stopping and considering and bringing in other resources, meaning you in particular, in this decision-making process. So that's the lesson that they want to leave, is to slow things down, and to, really consider, not so much in your head, not overthink, we could do this, and this, and what would be the pros and cons and blah, 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 blah. Not that, but rather than just making a snap decision, say, does this really feel right, or is there a better option? Let me ask my loved one, because he or she has really great insight as well. And I feel like this is something that's going to affect all of us. And so I want to bring in these other resources. So that's the lesson that they would like to share. I'm getting a message that I need a different deck. This one. Okay. So thank you for that message, loved one. What is something that you wished you'd paid more attention to? What is something that you wish you had paid more attention to? Okay. They wish the first card that came out was the Tower card. So they wish that they had paid more attention to the fact that there was some cracks in the foundation that were causing things to be unstable. we've got, I'm sorry, this is a new deck, and it always kind of stymies me what the suits are. Ace of Spoons and the Page of Spoons. And the Knight of Balloons. Okay, so this is Pentacles. And this is Wands. We've got the Six of Wands, and we've got the Knight of the Knight of Swords. Excuse me, the Knight of Pentacles. So, as well as the Nine of Cups and the Ace and the Page of Swords. Okay, so they wish that they had paid more attention to the fact that there were these cracks in the foundation, that there was this disconnect here. They were so busy being that individual who everybody looked to, everybody cheered and applauded, and looked to them as being the one that they could always go to if they needed a quick decision. They wish that they had paid more attention to the fact that there was a little bit of emotional disconnect with you because of this situation. The Nine of Cups, your relationship was for the most part very good. There was a great deal of love there. And most of the time you got along just fine, but there was just this one little nagging thing that sort of kept you guys from getting to the next stage in your relationship. And I don't mean that you weren't committed to the relationship. That's not it at all. But it was almost as though you had like extreme happiness in your relationship, but this one little thing kept you guys from getting to a place of bliss because there was just this little bit of friction. The Page of Spoons and the Ace of Spoons, there was kind of always this start, just a little beginning of friction because of this. It was just more of an irritation, really, and for you and for them, it was kind of a regret. So those two things created this little bit of a crack in the foundation of the relationship, and it kept you guys from getting your relationship to the next level, which is not to say that it was a bad place at all. It was a tremendous place, but there was just, we all have those little things that just irritate us about a relationship. And until you can get to a place of just complete acceptance in a relationship, you're not the highest you could get. There's always more work that could be done. So they wish that they paid more attention to the fact that this particular detail in your relationship, in their personality, in your personality, in the group dynamic, was actually holding you guys back from really moving even further with your relationship, because you always wished that they would fix it. And they always knew you wanted them to, but they weren't sure how they could, and so they felt bad about it. So that kind of just created a little bit of a rift between the two of you. And a rift is not the right word. It created a little bit of a crack, just a little something that made it just so that you knew there was always something there that was kind of bugging you. It wasn't serious, it wasn't severe by any means, but it just was something that was just always kind of there, just kind of hanging around, and they wish that they had paid more attention to that, because they would really like to not have anything have been hanging around between the two of you. So thank you, Spirit, for that message. What is a message that you would like to give to your loved one? What is a message for them that you would like to give them? The Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Queen of Balloons. So a message that they want to give to you is that when you think of them, They want you to know that you were their anchor in this world. That when things started to spin out of control ever for them, and nobody ever knew, including potentially you, that they had moments when they felt like things were spinning out of control. But when they got to those moments, they want you to know that you were the anchor that kept them, that reminded them that they were loved, and reminded them that they had this beautiful, abundant family or life, or just a place on earth. And without you in it, they wouldn't have had that anchor. They wouldn't have been able to make the decisions that they could make. They wouldn't have had the clarity that they had. They wouldn't be as decisive as they were. They wouldn't have been able to act the way that they did if it weren't for you. So even though they may not have brought you into where you could voice your side or your opinion or your decisions as often as maybe they would have liked to, and as often as maybe you would have liked them to, even though they weren't able to figure out how to do that, they want you to know that you were the piece that allowed them to be the person that everyone else looked to for decisions and for help and for guidance. So without you, they couldn't have done that. They couldn't have been that person. So it's kind of a weird double-edged sword, because the thing that created a little bit of friction between the two of you from time to time, and it was more of just an annoyance than a really big problem, but that very thing that created this little rift between the two of you once in a while was there because you supported them enough and you gave them enough self-confidence that they could be that person that everyone looked to, that everyone depended on. It was only because of you that they were able to be that person. So it really just went around and around and around. It was such a tricky situation. They wouldn't have traded it for the world that you were there for them, but they really regret that it ever caused this disconnect, this tiny little disconnect that was not a big deal, but it was to them, because they loved you so much that they always wanted you to be happy, and they didn't want there to ever be anything that upset you, especially not about them. So, but they really want you to know that you're the one who gave them that sense of self-worth and that sense of self-confidence that allowed them to be the strong person that they were. So, wow, really beautiful. I hope that this helps to clear up something that maybe has been sort of nagging you since they passed, that maybe you regret that you felt that way. They want you to know that they get it, they understood it, they just didn't know how to fix it, but that as much as people relied on them and as much as people trusted them and looked to them, it was because of you that they could be that person. So let's take a look at the oracle card that we got for you and see what that is. The right choice. The right choice is the card that we got. So let's read a little bit about the right choice. Sorry, this is taking a little bit of time here. Okay, I think I found it. The right choice. Stay close to those who know about the heart. Choose the shade of a tree that is in constant bloom. Don't meander aimlessly among the herb sellers and potion vendors. Go directly to the shop that sells nothing but sweets. Don't sit waiting by every boiling pot to have your plate filled. Not every boiling pot is cooking what you want. Not every sugar cane is filled with sugar. Not every down has an up. Not every eye has vision. Not every sea contains pearls. Within you, I recognize my most trusted friend. Ah, we go back a long way to before that moment when time began. We knew each other then, even before time was born. So I say, hello, my old friend and dear friend. So lovely for us to meet again. But I feel how your heart responds with a wave of love, for it is that love that is you, my most trusted friend. So I feel like this card kind of sums up the relationship that the two of you had. Even, I feel like this card is saying that you've been soulmates for many, many lifetimes. And so don't worry about this little rift that maybe showed up from time to time in this lifetime, because you've been in love for so very long. So, yeah, that's kind of a beautiful card to end this reading on. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I've enjoyed doing this reading for you. I've enjoyed spending time with you and your loved one. And I hope that you'll come back again. I greatly appreciate you, and I love to read tarot for you. So I wish you the best, and thank you. Bye-bye.